I mean, obviously we want to continue to get points in league. It's an away game for us. Not quite sure where they're going to be at in terms of their mindset. Obviously, they took a couple of yellow cards in the last game, Beasler, so he's out. Feilhaber tried really hard to get his yellow and got his yellow at the end. He's out because, I'm sure he wasn't going to play that game anyway. So it depends what group they're going to put out, what group they're going to try and save for the Open Cup, how important the league points are to them. But the group they're going to put on the field is going to be very, very competitive.
How different of a squad are they without Feilhaber up top?
Well, Benny, out of midfield does a lot of good things for them. He's the one who's led them with his passing. He's got a lot of assists for them, but he's the guy who sort of sets the tempo and opens up the game for them. But, obviously if he's not out there, Nagamura is somebody who can do that portion of the job as well. Maybe Susie plays inside more and does more of that job.
Spoke about your depth when healthy last night. I mean, looking out at the amount of guys and the names you have out there today, does that speak to that? It's the quality of the crew that can come out the day after a game like this?
Yeah. Day after a game is never a great day to train because just a late game, people can't fall asleep afterwards, and so it takes a little while to get going. But I was happy with what we did and the effort and just being, closer to being healthy. And now it's just a matter of getting fit, makes a big thing for us.
How is Ozzy?
Good. Went through all the training today, no issues.
Barrett and Nagel obviously came through a little bit yesterday, maybe a little less than the club had hoped while Dempsey and Oba were away. How do you kind of see their season so far?
Well, it's a different situation because, you got Valdez in between them, who had a goal and 2 assists. So it allows Nagel to play a more comfortable role of coming to the flank. When you look, obviously he finished his goals really, really well. And it's just easier. You had more veteran guys, so you had a Freeberg on the field as well with a Barrett. You had, even though Leo hasn't played in a long time, you had experienced back four, guys with a lot of games under their belt in this league. So that just makes it a little bit easier to play.
Is either Tomas or Remick dealing with an injury, or are they both just kind of looking for consistency at this point in the year?
Yeah, it's right now there's options, and so it's a little bit coach's decision.
With how things ended the last time that you're in KC, that late penalty call, does revenge or just any bad memories kind of come from that match?
Well, we thought that was a little bit of a harsh call, even looking back on it now. But it is what it is. Those things tend to even out over the time of a season, and it's just a matter of us, again, continuing. It's more about us and less about KC. It's about us continuing to play well. It's about us continuing to feel confident and growing our confidence in each other, and about us knowing that we want to get to the playoffs. We want to get those points, and we know in the playoffs that we're probably going to have to play on the road, and we want to do well on the road. So it's all about us right now. It's not about KC.
You've gotten good results over the last couple of weeks here, but is there another gear for this group? It seems like they're still sort of even searching for a next level with the new guys coming in and all that.
Well, that's going to take time because, you look at how many minutes has Valdez played with the other guys, how many minutes has Ivanchitz played with the other guys, so from that standpoint, that's something that's still going to take time. Is that going to be a finished product? Don't know, as to when that's going to happen. And as I said, it's possible that based upon, the players we have now, maybe would play a slightly different way or different style. But right now, to change that in the middle of the season doesn't make a lot of sense.
Do you think you guys could benefit from having kind of meaningful do-or-die games towards the end of the season as opposed to coasting in like maybe you have in the past?
I don't think you ever coast into the playoffs. I know I'd like to think that. It's good for your players to stay in rhythm, and as I said, the benefit, behind the scenes might be that guys are going into the playoffs with less games on their back and maybe not as fatigued. So hopefully that'll be something that we can draw upon. But at the end of the day, it's we want to get to a certain point if we can in the league and get ourselves in a situation where if we have to play a play-in game, we're at home. So that means we want to finish at least third or fourth.
Has the objective changed at all? I know it seemed like for a while that instead of looking at the Shield or looking for seeding, it was sort of get into the playoffs and see what happens. With all the results of the last couple of weeks, have you guys started to look a little bit more at, hey, we can maybe even fight into a first-round bye here?
We really haven't talked about that. All we're talking about is just getting our rhythm, getting our confidence.
With the players getting healthy and the success you've had over this past month, are things kind of coming together as you had hoped as you play these final 4 games?
Yeah, I mean, I always felt we had a good team. You know, it was just a matter of all the injuries. And when you take, you know, at one point, like I said last night, you know, when you have 6 out of 11 starters out of your lineup, it makes it tough to play. But, you know, I always felt that once we got those people back on the park and, you know, got them back out of training, it raises the level of training. Better training means you play better in games.